This book is called The Rock and the River. The author is Kekla Magoon. And this book takes place in Chicago in 1968. It's historical fiction, and the setting of the book is during the Civil Rights Movement. Okay? So this is a story of Sam. Sam is a teenager, and he is torn between following a non-violent approach that his dad follows, or a more militant approach that his brother is following because he's involved in the Black Panther Party. So he's tired of seeing his family and his friends suffer racism in his community. But he has a difficult decision. You know, is he going to follow his father, or is he going to follow his brother? Is he going to follow his mind, or is he going to follow his heart? Is he going to follow the rock, or is he going to follow the river? Okay, that's where the title comes from. So what I'm going to read to you is a section. Their father was talking at this non-violent demonstration, and somehow the demonstration becomes violent. So his brother gets hurt in the process, and Sam has to take him to the hospital. So this is what happens when they get to the hospital. Name? Mine or his? She sighed. His. I looked toward the door of the room where the nurses had taken Stick. Stephen Tyrone Childs. No one called him Stick but me. The nurse wrote it down. Age and birthday, his 17, October 8, 1950. Is he going to be all right? I'm sure he'll be fine, she said without looking up. Parents' names? I took a deep breath. Roland and Marjorie Childs. The nurse raised her eyes to me as her pen slid through the letters. Your father is Roland Childs? I nodded. Well, she said, looking back at the clipboard. I have to go to the bathroom, I said, standing up. The nurse clicked the pen off. It's down the hall. Go on then. I walked away. Out of her sight, I stopped in the hallway beside the men's room door and closed my eyes. Sam! Mama's voice called out. She rushed down the hall toward me, arms open to hug me. I let her fold me against her. I'm fine, Mama, I'm fine. She squeezed me to her and kissed my head, even though I was much too old to be fussed over. How had she found me so fast? I didn't even care. At least she was there. All right, baby, it's all right, she murmured. Father's heavy footsteps approached. I turned to face him. Father, I said, pulling away from Mama. Father looked tall in the low-ceiling hospital corridor. He pulled his hands out of his coat pockets and removed his gloves. Where's your brother? He asked, looking me in the eyes. I was in trouble. They took him in there, I stammered, and pointed to the room where Stick was. Father nodded. Look at me. Are you hurt? He asked. No, sir. His gaze was piercing. He was trying to get the truth out of me. After a moment, his eyes softened and he patted me on the shoulder. All right then, let me see about your brother. He strode away and entered Stick's room. A moment later, the nurse emerged. I'll get the doctor now, she said. Mama and I followed Father into the room. Stick lay in the bed, propped up against pillows. He had a thick white gauze pad taped to the side of his head. I did what I had to do, he was saying. Father stood at the far side of the bed, near the window, looking out. You let your temper go, Father said. We've talked about this. Father, No. Father turned from the window. When I went to work with Martin, I took an oath of nonviolence. I've upheld it to this day, and I expect you to do the same. No excuses. Is that understood? Stick sat up in the bed. This wasn't some taunts at a lunch counter. This wasn't ketchup on their heads. Look at my face. I'm not supposed to fight back to that? Father didn't always need words to make his point. He could have been a preacher. His eyes were like a sermon in and of themselves. Anyway, Stick knew as well as I did that some of the college kids who'd staged sit-ins to protest segregated lunch counters in the South had been beaten in addition to having condiments poured over their heads. They never fought back. Today, we had. Father and Stick stared at each other for a long while. Neither of them spoke. Going to find a doctor, Father said finally. His coattails flapped against my shins as he swept past me and out the door. Stick flopped back against the pillows. Mama stroked his hair. Stick looked past her to me. What'd you tell him? He demanded. I shook my head. Nothing. We saw, Mama said, touching the edge of Stick's bandage. From the podium. We saw. Stick pushed her fingers away. I'm not sorry I went after them, he muttered. They were beating on innocent people. That old woman. He closed his eyes and pressed his head deeper in the pillow. How can he ask me to just stand by and watch it happen? Turn the other cheek, Mama said softly. She ate up Father's words like candy without question. I had questions like Stick. I just didn't know how to ask them. So, if you want to find out what happens to Stick and to Sam and to his brother Stick, you'll have to read the books to find out. And so we do have other books by this author, and actually, so you'll see the number 1 here. There is a sequel to this book. The sequel is called Fire in the Streets, and it's actually the story told from this version of Sam's girlfriend. So in this book, Sam has a girlfriend, and the sequel is kind of like her story. And then we also have 2 other books by this author. One is called Camel Girl, and then the other one is called How It Went Down, and that's a young adult book.